Shalom, welcome to Wisdom and Torah Ministries. I tell you, I am excited, I am happy. I cannot believe the amount of people that have been so supportive and have been responding so well to the Torah portions this year. I pray that you have enjoyed that last week's parasha on Bereshit. And you know, to some of you, you probably heard a lot of it already. But I want to share with you what I've learned, and maybe I've added a few things that are new. And also remember, there's a lot of new people that want to learn Torah, so I have to keep it in a way that I'm targeting every audience that I'm talking to. Okay, I'm not only talking to the well-established Messianic believer, which later on we're going to start getting to deeper stuff, but you got to remember, this is something that I'm trying to address everybody. Before I start, I'd like to share with a few minutes. I want to let you know which resources do I use in my studies. Now, I use the book of Yasher as a point of reference. The book of Yasher is quoted in the book of Yashua and in the book of Samuel. Okay, I don't know why it's not in Scripture, but it's there. But anyway, it's a point of reference. Look at it as a historical perspective, as something else that was added, that you can look into, and you can get this particular copy at Artisan Publishers. And then you can go from there. Also, I use onkelos. This is very important because in the Torah, in the synagogues, when they read the Torah, they also quote from onkelos, which is the Targum, which is a paraphrase of the Torah. And here you find a lot of things that talks about the word of Yahweh, the Memra of Yahweh. Okay, and also I use a lot of rabbinical resources sometimes as a point of reference. So if you have a question about that, you can look above the video that you're watching right now and go to All Teachings, and there when you hit the tab All Teachings, you're going to see it says the uses of rabbinical resources, and you're going to be able to listen to my disclaimer on that, so you know where I stand. Now, also, the advantage of being in my house is that I'm able to have a lot of resources and a lot of tools around me. I've been very blessed, and I'm telling you, I'm excited. I'm really happy, and I pray that this is challenging to you, and we're going to be doing we're going to get into some deep stuff, so, be ready, okay? All right. Let's do the blessing for the Torah. I'm glad that you allow me to be in your homes on this Shabbat. So, the Torah portion before that, I want to read you this. The Torah portion for today is Noah, and it means rest. And it's in Genesis, Bereshit, chapter 6, verse 9 to chapter 11, verse 32. Okay, and this is for the 9th of October 2010. Now, let's do the blessing from the Torah portion. Baruch et Adonai HaMevorah, Baruch Adonai HaMevorah leolam va'ed, Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol chamin, v'natan lanu et torato, Baruch ata Adonai noten haTorah. Amen. It says, bendigan a Yahweh, quien es bendito, bendigan a Yahweh, quien es bendito para siempre. I'm telling you in Spanish, am I? You gotta learn how to speak in tongues here, people. Come on now. You gotta learn that. I'm just trying to give you a joke there, okay, guys? Come on now. You guys say, blessed be Yahweh, the blessed one. Blessed is Yahweh, the blessed one for all eternity. Blessed are you, Yahweh, our Elohim, King of the universe, who selected us from all the peoples and given us His Torah. Blessed are you, Yahweh, giver of your heart or your Torah. Amen? So now, let's continue on our study on Noah. We are going to be covering a lot of ground. This looks like it's going to be a 2-hour portion. And we're going to be covering what happened in the flood experience, and also in the time of Nimrod. Now, this is very significant because I'm going to establish a foundation right here and right now. I've always said that the Torah is cyclical, and this is very, very true. But one thing you need to remember is that whatever happened in the beginning is going to happen at the end, and vice versa. Okay? Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit about prophecy right here, and then we're going to cover it in depth here a little bit later. Now, we know that with the last days, we are waiting for a one-world leader, somebody who the countries would rally to, so therefore now he will be able to lead them into war or whatever, peace or whatever we're going to do. We call that the Antichrist, the Anti-Mashiach, the Anti-Messiah. Okay? But this already happened in history a few times. We have Antiochus Epiphanes, not only that, but here in the beginning we have Nimrod. And Nimrod's time, and Nimrod, he was the leader of the world. One language, one worship, and one way of doing things. It's interesting that in the book of Bereshit, after judgment, you have one world order, right? Now we're going backwards, remember? Before going back to the garden, we're going to have one world order, and then we're going to have judgment, and then He's going to remember the covenant of the forefathers, and then we're going to go into the garden in Eden. We're going to go back to the beginning. You follow the pattern. Anything in Genesis, you reverse it. In the book of Revelation, you go back to the beginning again. Okay, so this is something we're going to cover here. Now, on the last Torah portion, I covered on the generations of Noah. You notice that the parasha, the last reading of the last portion of last week, was on it came to pass when the men began to increase, okay, on the face of the earth. Okay, yes, and it says that we're talking about Genesis chapter 6, verse 1 through 8. And as we see here, they were talking about the judgment that will come to the earth, and 120 years. Remember, I told you about that prophecy. You probably knew about that already. 120 years, the judgment will come. 120 jubilees, which is 6,000 years. So that was the top and shadow of the judgment that will happen till the end. Again, we're connecting it prophetically to the end days. Now, with that being said, we have the genealogy of Noah. We talked about that last week. Okay? But if we take the 10 generations, and the last name being Noah, you're going to find something very significant. Adam, Seth, Enosh, Canaan, Mahalalel, Jared, Enoch, Methuselah, Lamech, and you have Noah. Noah being the 10th person. And now if you take those 10 names, I'm going to review what I said last week. If you take those 10 names, then you get this kind of definition. That a man has been appointed to be mortal. He will suffer sorrow. He will be blessed of Elohim. He shall come down and teach. His death shall bring to the despairing rest and comfort. So here we see what's going to happen at the end. That the death of our Messiah, amen, he's Ben Adam. He's been appointed to us to suffer. He will be blessed of Elohim. And he came down and taught the Torah. And his death brought forth the restoration to the despairing and the rest of comfort for those who believe in him. That's what the Messiah is all about. Okay, so now, with that being said, as we go into the Torah portion, I want to mention something to you that's very peculiar. I want you to pay attention to this, because you're going to see this through all the Torah portions throughout the year. Now, you notice that when you begin to do the Torah portions in Bereshit, it begins with a bet. Noah, it begins with a nun. Lech Lecha, it begins with a lamed. But then you have the portion right after next week's, which is talk about Genesis chapter 12. You have a portion after that it says Vayera. Now I want you to pay attention to that, because in the English text you don't see it, but in the Hebrew scroll you see it. In the Torah you see it. See, when you see the word in the Torah in the Torah cycle, when you print this out of my website and you start seeing the Torah cycles, then you're going to notice that it says, let me give you an example. It says Toldot, which is generations, which will be the Torah portion for Genesis 25. Okay? Now, after that, you're going to have 3 particular Torah portions that goes like this. Vayetze, Vayishlach, Vashevet. Okay? So therefore, they're connected with a Vav. The Vav is like a nail. It's connected. Va'an. Okay? And that's what it begins. So every title of every Torah portion usually is the first name of the portion that you see in the Hebrew. In this case, it says Ele Toldot Noach. Okay? Okay, so therefore it says Ele Toldot, Ele Todis, the generations of Noach. So therefore, that's the introduction to the Torah portion. So that way, when you read it, you know that the first word of that particular, or the first sentence of that particular Torah portion is the title of the particular Torah portion you follow. Okay? So here we have Bereshit. From Bereshit now, he established creation. He established his credibility as the creator of heaven and earth, the creator of mankind, and now he's moving to something else. Now he's going to begin the covenant process. He's going to start making covenant with men, and he see the condition of men. Now, as we begin to look into this, and we start reading on Noah, we're going to start touching on some interesting subjects here. Okay, let me begin the reading. So these are the offsprings of Noah. Noah was a righteous man. Now what's interesting is in the Hebrew, it says Ish Sadak Tamim. Okay? So it's a perfect righteous man. He was a Sadiq. Okay? He was a Sadiq. Sedek. Okay? So a righteous man is somebody who's keeping the commandments of Yahweh. This is somebody who's keeping the commandments. And it says, perfect in his generations. Noah walked with Elohim. Halach. He walked with him. He kept the commandments. Because when you go back to the commandments of Yahweh in the book of Devarim, or in the book of Vayikra, you're always going to find something about obeying, keeping, and doing, walking in the commandments. Every time you see the word walk, okay, it means to keep the Torah. You're walking in the Torah, because the Hebrew concept of faith is very different than the Greek concept of faith. The Hebrew concept of faith has to do with just walking in your commandments. In other words, if your wife tells you, I love you, but then she mistreats you, and she doesn't she just doesn't treat you with respect, and then she just, the husbands, how it is, ladies. If your husband tells you he loves you, but he smacks you upside the head every week, you're not going to believe that he really loves you. Why? Because his actions speak louder than his words. Same thing in the concept of walking. Noah had begotten 3 sons, Shem, Ham, Japheth. Okay? Now, the earth had become corrupt before Elohim, and the earth had become filled with the robbery. And Elohim saw the earth, and behold, it was corrupted. And all flesh had corrupted its way upon the earth. Elohim said to Noah, the end of all flesh have come before me, for the earth is filled with robbery through them, and behold, I am about to destroy them from the earth. Make yourselves an ark of gold for wood, and make the ark with compartments, and cover it inside and out with pitch. Okay, this is how you shall make it: 300 cubits of length of the ark, 50 cubits of width, and 30 cubits of its height. A window shall you make for the ark, to a cubic finish from above. Now, this is really interesting, because Moses, they put him like, if you go back and you study the way they protected Moses, when they threw him in the river, right? Pitch, almost the same thing, like a mini ark per se. And we have to understand that this is a pattern that we're going to see here, the pattern of protection. Noah was not taken out of the world. He was not raptured out in order for him to be protected from judgment of the world. So let me ask you a question. Does Yahweh changes? He doesn't change. He's the same today, forever, today, yesterday, today, and forever. So therefore, no, if he did something back then in Bereshit, then he's not going to change it in the book of Revelation. All of a sudden, he's not going to change his mind and say, well, I'm going to just pull him out and then bring judgment. No, he will protect us through the whole process of judgment as we go through here. Now, this is something that we need to understand. As we were talking last week, we have to know that the process of judgment from one thing to the next. What caused the judgment of the world? The judgment of the world was caused, when you read in the book of Yasher, okay, in chapter 6, verse 19, says this: And Noah with a loud voice answered from the ark, saying, Have you not all rebelled against the Elohim, Adonai, and said that He does not exist? Now, the whole question here is that the people, when they were in the ark, waiting for Him, they closed the door. Now they want Him to open it. Okay? He is screaming from the top of the ark, says, wait a minute. When I told you that, when I preached, when I told you about what was happening, all of a sudden you didn't listen to me. But now, you kept saying that He did not exist. Now, consider whether this is acceptable to you or not, or whether you want to believe this particular quote is irrelevant. But the point is that we're going through the same process right now. How many people in the United States and all over the world, you're always talking about doubting who Yahweh is, doubting who our Creator is? You see this every day on the news. They're always doing something that is always taking away the credibility of our Creator. Evolution, for example. And all the things that they teach you in school. So let me ask you a question. If the book of Yasher gives us an incline, or gives you an insight of something historical that happened, and they say, well, you say God did not exist. There you go. Now, see the waters breaking? To that point, they've never had rain. Okay? Because remember that in Genesis, we talk about the dew from the earth that will water everything, that they took care of everything, all the herbs and all that. So imagine, they've never rained before. All of a sudden, people are freaking out. They see the heavens open up, they go, this is new. And now they're going like, we don't know what to do. Let's continue with the reading. Verse 16 of chapter 6. A window, I already told you about that, I'm sorry, so let's move on. It's a window shall you make for the ark, a cubit finish from above. Put the entrance of the ark in its side, make it with the bottom, second, and third decks. So it's got 3 decks to it. And it says, And as for me, behold, I am about to bring flood waters upon the earth to destroy all flesh, in which there is breath of life, and from under the heavens. Everything that is on the earth shall expire. I will establish my covenant with you. Okay? I will establish my covenant with you. But when you look in the Targums, depends on the Targum that you look at, okay, it's trying to tell you that Yahweh made a covenant between him and the word of the Lord. That the word of Yahweh made a covenant within the Memra. Okay, this is how you find the Torah, how you find Yeshua in the Torah, how you find the Messiah, the Memra, the promised Messiah in the Torah. You see, Yeshua says, lo, in the volume of the scroll it is written of me. So therefore, if we don't see Yeshua, or if we don't see the Mashiach in the Torah, then we're not really studying the Torah, because, the rabbis, ancient rabbis, when they do the Torah, they had an idea that this was talking about the Messiah. Not necessarily Yeshua as being the Messiah in their eyes, but they're saying that particular verse is about the Messiah. Okay? And this is something that I want you to consider. Okay? The Targum does speak about that. It all depends which Targum you're talking about. It could be Onkelos, it could be the Jerusalem Targum, or Jonathan ben Uziel Targum. Okay? Now, let's continue. And it says, but I will establish my covenant, verse 18, my covenant with you, and you shall enter the ark, you, your sons, your wife, your sons' wives with you. And from all the lives, all flesh, 2 of you shall bring into the ark to keep alive with you. You shall be male and female. It's talking about the animals. From each bird according to its kind, from each animal according to its kind, and from each thing that creeps on the ground according to its kind. 2 of each shall come to you to keep alive. And as for you, to take yourself every food that is eaten and gather it into yourself, that you shall be for food for you and for them. Noah did according to everything Elohim commanded him. He did, and he did. Now, I'm reading from the Chumash. This is the stone edition Chumash. You can also find the what is called the Hertz edition, and there's other editions that you can find. Now, let me read you something here from the book of Yasher. Hope I find it here right away so you can see how they were approaching, specifically with the beast. I was reading it earlier, and it was telling you that when the animals will come into the ark, when they will come up to Noah, that the bigger animals, let's say the lioness and the lion, will come in and they'll bring their cubs. And they leave the cubs out the door, and then the lioness, the adult animals, will go running back. They will stay out on the land, but they allow the cubs to come in. That's really interesting, because that will make perfect sense how they can fit so many animals in the ark. Well, if they're very small animals, they're basically growing, so therefore that they will fit. So I thought that was a point of interest. It's not in the Bible. I just want to share that with you as a point of interest. Let's go to chapter 7. Then Yahweh said to Noah, come to the ark, you and all your household, for it is you that I have seen to be righteous before me in this generation. Well, what does that mean? He was keeping the commandments. They're basically, according to the book of Yasher, they were telling us that there was doubt in the world about who Yahweh was. They did not believe in Him. They began to do robbery. They began to do all kinds of crazy things. They began to defile women, to defile men. What is happening right now? Same thing as in the days of Noah. Remember what Yeshua said? As in the days of Noah. So therefore, if Yeshua said that, so then you have to go back and try to find the information. What was happening around the time of Noah? Remember that all this stuff is foreign to us, because we're learning how to walk in the Torah. But in the first century, all these legends and all these traditions and all the stories kept it going through all that time. So consider that as you read, okay? Now, it says this on verse 2 of chapter 7. Of every clean animal, take unto you 7 pairs, male and its female, and its mate. And of the animals that is not clean, 2, male and its mate. So therefore, out of the clean animals, you take 7 pairs. Out of the unclean animals, you take a pair. Now, let me ask you a question. If there was no Torah, then why would Yahweh may specifically mention the clean animals with the unclean animals? This is something you have to consider. Especially if you're walking in the Torah and you're dealing with Acts 15 and, eating pork or not eating pork or whatever. The last time I checked, the DNA of the pork has not changed in 5,000 years, so why should it change now? Why would Yahweh make a distinction between the clean and the unclean? If in fact there was no Torah, anybody can eat whatever you want to. Okay? That makes no sense. Obviously there were commandments that they have to keep back then. Now the Torah, I believe, was given at that time to Adam. Adam taught it to the firstborn. They were in charge of teaching the world how to worship Yahweh. You follow what I mean? But now Mount Sinai was given to the people as a community, as a nation, and it became the Bill of Rights, or the Declaration of Independence. In other words, it tells you exactly what to do. Judicial, Kohanim, the priest, the land, the priest, the farmer, the widows, how to treat anybody. It teaches you how to live. Okay, let's continue. Verse 3. The birds of the heaven also, 7 pairs, male and female, to keep seed alive upon the face of all the earth. For in 7 more days time I will send rain upon the earth, 40 days and 40 nights, and I will blot out all existence that I have made from upon the face of the earth, of the ground. And Noah did according to everything that Yahweh had commanded him. Okay? Now let's break that down for a minute. Now, it says that you will, 7 more days. Why 7 more days? Because the last person who lived at that time, see, the book of Yashar also quotes that the Father, that Yahweh, decided to allow all the righteous men to die before judgment came to the world. Okay? Yeah, I hope he doesn't do that again, because I want to see Messiah when he comes in the clouds, and we will. So it's only as a point of reference. But I believe that what happened there, the reason why 7 more days were allowed, is because Methuselah died, which was the grandfather of Noah. Okay? Methuselah being the grandfather of Noah, when he died, it wasn't until Methuselah died that the judgment of the earth came. Okay? And he was allowed time to mourn. 7 days passed, and then he went into the ark, as we see here. Verse 6. And verse 6 says, Noah was 600 years old when the flood was water upon the earth. Okay? Now, this is very significant. When we go back to Genesis chapter 5, verse 32, it tells you, when Noah was 500 years old, Noah begot Shem, Ham, and Japheth, right? So, you have 500 years old, and 600 years old when judgment will come, 6,000 years, on the 6th day. We are now on the end of 6,000 years, and I believe that that's when judgment will come at the end, before we go into our rest, where we're going to be protected and guided in. Okay? Into the kingdom. So all of a sudden now we see a prophetic picture of what prophecy is all about. That now we have the understanding that the judgment will come at the end of 6,000 years. This is what we call declaring the end from the beginning. Declaring prophetic pictures in the life of Noah. Remember that the word Noah, which is spelled, where is it? Rega. It's spelled Nun Chet. Nun Chet. If you turn the letters around, it's Chet Nun. It means Chen, which means grace. Okay? So therefore, when it says that Noah found grace in the eyes of Adonai or Elohim or Yahweh, he was living by his name. He was a righteous man. He was taught the Torah by Methuselah. He was taught the commandments of the Lord from Methuselah. Methuselah was not the oldest man that ever lived. Over 960 years old, I believe. I can't remember exactly right now. Now, something very peculiar. Let me make a little disclaimer here real quick. Let me go back to the genealogy. I talked a little bit about this, and I forgot to print one out. But I'm going to look for it over here, because a lot of people, when they begin to study the Torah, they don't really become aware that they were like people lived a long time. You know what I mean? And this is something that you need to become aware. So when you have an opportunity, look for what is called a genealogy. And I know I have it over here somewhere. I saw it earlier and I can't find it right now. But you can get all the times. See? So here you have Enosh. He lived from the year 235 to the year 1140 from creation. Let me go from Adam. Adam lived from creation to the year 930. So he lived during the first 1,000 years. Seth was born in the year 130, and he died in the year 1042, already in the 2,000 years from creation. Enosh was born in the year 235, and he lived up to the year 1140. So he lived 140 years longer than Seth, obviously. Kenan, he died in the year 1235. Mahalalel died in the year 1290. Jared died in the year 1422. Enoch died in the year 987. He only lived 365 years. Only. I would love to live that long. Methuselah, he died in the year 1656. Now Lamech died in the year 1651. So Methuselah died 5 years later than his father. Than his son. And Noah was born in the year 1056. So Noah, he did not see Adam and Seth, but he was alive during the time of Canaan, Mahalalel, Jared, Enoch, Methuselah, Lamech. So he learned from Enoch and he learned from Methuselah. This is very interesting. Okay? Now, Noah died in the year 2006 from creation. Think about that for a minute. That was very interesting. So what we see now is that Abraham is now going into, later on during that year. Alright, the seed. Remember the second day? You have the seed of the herbs and that Abraham was doing that time. Let's continue here real quick as we continue to go. And we're reading in chapter 7. Verse 11. In the 600th year of Noah's life, in the second month, on the 17th day of the month, on that day the fountains of the great deep burst forth. Now, this might bring a little confusion to you, because if you're counting from Nisan, but during the first time, that's before Nisan was established as a Passover, which I believe, by the way, they always had a Passover, or not a Passover, but an observance of that day. Let me show you what I mean. In the Targums, okay? In the Targum of Onkelos, tells you something very interesting. Chapter 7. It tells you this. In the 600th year of the life of Noah, in the second month, which was from the month of Mar Cheshvan. In other words, they're counting at that time, they were counting from Tishri. Like right now, you just passed the month of Tishri. Right? Remember we kept the feast? We kept the feast of Yahweh, we kept Sukkot, we kept Yom Teruah, Rosh Hashanah, or we kept Yom Kippurim. So therefore, as we kept it, that was the month of Tishri. Back then, they were counting the years from the month of Tishri. So this event here happened on the next month. It will be like between October and November. You follow? Depends on the Hebrew calendar during that year. It says, on the month of Mar Cheshvan, for hitherto the month have been numbered from Tishri, which was the beginning of the year, at the completion of the world. You see? The Targum tells you that back then, and by the way, according to the rabbis, the Targum is very much inspired. Understand, not only is it historical, it's a paraphrase of the Torah. The Torah comes first, but that was a very reliable book. So I'm giving you this as a point of reference. It says, the completion of the world, in the 17th day of the month, in that day were all the mountains of the great deep broken up. Later on, we're going to find out when the ark rested. It rested after 7 months. And it tells you when exactly they came out of the ark. It's incredible. It happens to be on Nisan 17, the first fruits. Remember, you have the 14th, Pesach, and then on the 17th is the Bikurim. Okay? Okay, the feast of first fruits, when the priest will go into the temple, he will wave the grain offering. Okay, let's move on from here. And it says, on the 600 years of Noah's life, the second month, on the 17th day of the month, remember, they're counting from Tishri, okay? On that day, all the fountains of the great deep burst forth, and the windows of heaven were open, and the rain was upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights. And on that very day Noah came with Shem, Ham, and Japheth, Noah's son, and Noah's wife, and the 3 wives of his sons with them into the ark. Okay, so how many people do they have? Now, so you have Noah and his wife, that's 2 people, 3 sons, and their wives, that's 6 people, right? So you have 8 people going into the ark. What does the number 8 mean in biblical language? When you do ancient covenant, the first thing you do, one of the steps of ancient covenant, if you've been listening to my Covenant of the Pieces teaching, okay? You do a figure 8. Figure 8 typifies eternal life, covenant. Okay? Resurrection of the dead, eternal life. Now, when Yeshua was resurrected, remember Thomas? Thomas said, if on the 8th day Yeshua appeared to Thomas, not immediately after he resurrected, but on the 8th day he appeared to Thomas. 8 is number, very important. Circumcision happens on the 8th day. Okay, so the fact that there were 8 people on the ark is very significant prophetically, because it has to do that Yahweh makes covenant. Remember, he made a covenant? He gave his word, the Memra, between him and Noah, and he made covenant with him. So therefore now when the 8 people came in, it's like for us, it's a sign of everlasting. You know, they'll be okay. Okay, they're going to be okay because Yahweh promised it. This is very important. This is how I decipher some of the things people say, well, how did you get that? Well, you have to understand numbers in Scripture. By the way, if you want to understand numbers in Scripture, you can get Bullinger's book. It's a very good book. You can go to philologos.org. Philo, P-H-I-L-O, logos, L-O-G-O-S, and you can .org, and you can get that book by Bullinger about the not only the Mazzaroth, which is the constellations and astronomy, not astrology, astronomy, and then also the numbers in Scripture. I think that will be a good help to you. By the way, Alfred Edersheim used that resource a lot, from Bullinger and things like that. So something that you might want to consider. All right. It says, let me find it here. On that very day, I already read that. Verse 14. They and every beast after its kind, every animal after its kind, every creeping thing that creeps on the earth after its kind, and every bird after its kind, and every bird of any kind of wing, they came to Noah in the ark, 2 by 2, all flesh, in which there was breath of life. And they came, male and female, all flesh, and Elohim had commanded him, and Yahweh shut it on his behalf. Now, I want you to understand something very significant. When you read that verse 15, and you look it up in the Hebrew, you're going to notice that he is using Elohim, and then he's using Yahweh. Those are different attributes of the Creator. You're going to see that in the story of Noah. He's revealing himself as the master of the universe, Elohim. Okay, that's an attribute, as a master of the universe. And then he goes into Yahweh, some of the other attributes, and then he says, I appear to Abraham as El Shaddai. You follow him, but to you, in Exodus, I appear to you as I am that I am. So therefore, he's revealing himself in different ways. Keep that in mind when you see the word G-O-D and some of the things in the Chumash, and then it says Hashem, that means Yahweh, and there's G-O-D, Elohim, is trying to let you know that he is trying to talk to Noah in a master, in attributes of his mastery, of dominion of the world. You see what I mean? It says, as Yahweh commanded him, the creator and judge of the universe, says, and Yahweh shut it on his behalf. Okay? And then And when the flood was on the earth 40 days, the waters increased and raised the ark, so it was lifted above the earth. The waters strengthened, and they increased greatly upon the earth, and the ark drifted above the surface of the water. The waters strengthened very much upon the earth. And all the high mountains, which are under the entire heaven, are covered. That's pretty high. That way, by the way, I don't believe at that time Mount Everest was around. I'm going to show you why a little later. It tells you something that you might overlook. Okay, I believe, this is my opinion, okay? When I was a kid in school, in my history class, my geography class, I'm not stupid, I was young, but I knew what was going on. The teachers are trying to say that, whatever, about the maps. But I kept looking at the map, and I look at North and South America, I look at Africa, I look at Australia, and I'm going like, that looks like a puzzle. Like you look at the world, and it looks like a puzzle. You can put, South Africa. You put Africa with South America, and it seems to fit. You know what I mean? You put Australia, move it up, and you put the Arctic, and you move it in. All of a sudden they call that Pangea. You know what I mean? It's like everything united. I believe that during this time, it was like that. That's my opinion. Now later on, the Bible tells you that one of the sons of Shem was named something that declared that the earth divided at that time. And I'm going to prove my point later on. So stay with me, okay? I hope you're getting this. And we're going to continue. We're covering a lot of ground. And, I'm already running a little bit out of time for this particular hour. But I want to make sure that, we cover certain things. We're not even past chapter 7 yet. So stay with me. Now, verse 20 says, 15 cubits upward did the water strengthen, and the mountains were covered. And all flesh that moved upon the earth expired, among the birds, the animals, the beasts, all the creeping things that creep upon the earth, and all mankind, all in whose nostrils was the breath of the Spirit of life. Everything that was on dry land died. And He blotted out all the existence that was on the face of the ground, from men to animals to creeping things, and to the birds of heaven, and they were blotted out of the earth. Now, only Noah survived, and those with him on the ark, and the water strengthens on the earth 150 days. Okay? Now, what we need to understand is that this is very righteous judgment on behalf of Yahweh. The people no longer feared Him. The people no longer believed in His existence. The people were doing whatever they wanted to do. It sounds like the 21st century, doesn't it? So something that we need to consider, that He will bring righteous judgment. So what was really the purpose of water? Why not fire at that time? Why not just destroy the world and start from scratch? I mean, He's creator of heaven and earth. He could have just basically destroyed the earth completely, do away with the planet, and you can still protect Noah. He's a creator. He could have put on a capsule and just say, okay, stay there, bouncing in the in the heavens and until I make another earth for you because you're righteous. No, He didn't do that. He is faithful in what He created. And He created something from the beginning, and He said that it was good. And whatever Yahweh says is good, it prevails forever. It was men that corrupted it. So therefore, it tells me that we're going to be on the earth as an eternal commandment. And the book of Revelation tells us this. In the book of Revelation chapter 5, verse 10 tells us that we will reign on the earth with Him. Chapter 10 says, and He made us kings and priests to Elohim, and we shall reign on the earth. We shall reign on the earth. Okay? Actually, you should say, we shall reign on the kingdom. We shall reign on the earth as a kingdom. Okay? So why? Because Yahweh established it. If He wanted to do something different and He wanted to take us to heaven, then why not do that with Noah at that time? Okay, no, but He kept him, He protected him. Now this is very significant because if you know about mikvah, mikvah is something very significant. It's a transition from old to new, from dirty to clean, from tameh, defiled, to tahor, to cleanse. Now you see a pattern of this in Zechariah chapter 14. In Zechariah 14, it tells you the coming of Adonai. It tells you the coming of the Creator. Okay? When Yahweh comes back, it says, Baruch haba b'shem Yahweh, He who comes in the name, blessed is He who comes in the name of Yahweh. So the name of our Messiah, when He comes, will be His name Yahweh, because the Father will give Him that name. Alright? It says that He will step on the Mount of Olives, which faces Jerusalem on the east, and the Mount of Olives shall be split in two from east to west, right? I said the last part, Torah portion from north to south, and I was wrong. It's from east to west, okay? Making a very large valley. Half of the mountain shall move towards the north, okay, and half of it towards the south. So I was half right last week, you see? Then you shall flee to the mountains, right? And the mountains shall reach the other word. And it says, I got to look for that. Here we go. Verse 8. And on that day shall be that living water shall flow from Jerusalem. I got to go up. Wait a minute. I can't find that verse right now. That it says that the water, there will be water. That it shall split. Okay. It says in that day, verse 8. The living water shall flow from Jerusalem. Half of them towards the eastern gate. And all that. I believe that what's going to happen here, there's going to be a mikvah in the land. Because there's water underneath. Okay, there will be mikvah in the land there, just like there was mikvah in creation. Remember there was water, and then He separated the waters from the land. Now remember the pattern that I showed you in 1 week, the 7 days of creation compared to the first chapter in the Bible. Remember that on that second day there was the division of the waters from the waters and the land of the land, and He didn't call it good until the land showed. Remember? That has to do with deposits in Noah. Noah's time, there was land, but there was water. Remember, there was water all over? But when the flood came, there was water all over the world. And then he came in covenant with Noah after the earth was revealed again in his what you call it, tahor state, in his cleansed state, purified state. That's why water is so significant in temple service. And you have the mikvah as you come through here. So I believe this was a mikvah to the earth. There was an immersion of the earth there by giving water to cleanse it from everything that happened. Let me tell you something. We need that right now. The soil is defiled. The soil is defiled. The animals are defiled. Everything, the atmosphere is defiled. You know, the breathing, the air that we breathe is no longer 38%. 38% of the pressure of the atmosphere. Now we are somewhere between 19 and 20%. That's why we die quicker nowadays. So with pollution, if you're a farmer, you know what I'm talking about. With the soil being depleted, we don't, with the pesticides and everything we're putting into the whole food supply. We need a huge mikvah on the earth. Okay, but unfortunately, it's going to be with fire at the end here. It's not going to be with water. All right. Okay, so as we finish this chapter 7, we've covered some ground. We know that the waters cover the whole earth, and that He will bring judgment on the earth. Now, when you come back for the next session, we're going to cover chapter 8, 9, 10, and 11. We're going to try to do that in an hour, if we can. If not, we're going to go a little longer, maybe an hour and a half or whatever. It don't matter. We're not subjugated by time. I'm the one spending my time here, and I'd rather do a good job. It's Sabbath anyway, ladies and gentlemen. You got nowhere to go. You're just home right now. I hope I keep you entertained too, that I don't bore you when I'm talking to you. But I pray that some of these nuggets, will be beneficial to you in your search and your understanding of your study of the Torah. Now, make sure that you go over and you take time to get something to eat, relax, and then come back and join me for the second part of the Parashat Noah. Okay? Yahweh bless and keep you. We'll see you in a few minutes. Shalom.